Hi there, good evening everyone. Thank you for joining us for this presentation for proposals for Power Park Acton. We're just going to give a couple of minutes for people just joining a little bit later, and then we'll go through some housekeeping. Hi there, I can see a couple more people have just joined us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just going to be starting in a couple of minutes. Just give a couple of minutes more to people just drip and dropping in. Just to count that this meeting is being recorded this evening. So whilst your audio and your visual are not going to be visible or heard, please note that this video is being recorded for people that will be able to watch it back on the website. Just give it a couple more minutes. Okay, I think we'll get kicking off then. Thank you very much this evening for joining us. These are for proposals for Power Park Acton, and this webinar is being recorded right now. Can I just ask for the next slide, please? Just a few housekeeping notes for this evening. So just to note that your audio and your video is automatically turned off and will remain off throughout the webinar. However, this meeting is being recorded and you'll probably have had a notification already for that. On the screen, you'll be able to see some of the project team who will be joining us this evening just to talk you through the proposals. There will be a question and answer session at the end of this. If you do have a question, please let us know by typing it into the Q&A box. You can do this at any time throughout the proposals and the presentation, but we'll be answering these at the end. And if you have any technical issues, please do message us through either the chat box or the Q&A function, or you can email us directly, and that email address is powerparkacton@londoncommunications.co.uk. So thank you very much for coming this evening. I'm just going to go around the room and introduce your project team to you. So if I can hand over to Jeremy first.
Thanks, good evening. My name is Jeremy Bishop and I'm co-founder of Oxford Real Estate, which is the developer and sponsor of this project.
Can I introduce you to Claire?
Hi, my name is Claire Haddon. I'm also work for Oxford. I'm responsible for the asset management on Power Park Acton.
Could I hand over to Alistair?
Yes, so I'm Alistair Longdon from UMC Architects. I'm the project architect.
Ben.
Good evening, Ben Prospered, Senior Planner at CBRE, working on the planning side.
James.
Good evening, James Shepherd. I'm a director from the CBRE planning team at Oxford Wood.
Stephen.
Stephen Mills from Stantec, providing transport and highways advice for the project.
Kevin.
Kevin Salmon, I'm a landscape architect from Node.
And finally, Sam.
Hi, Sam Young from Old Consulting, working as project manager and civil structural engineers.
I'm Sarah Davey. I work on behalf of LCA. We're a community engagement specialist, and we're running this evening. So I'm going to hand over to the architect just to walk us through the proposals today. Alistair, over to you.
Okay, so we'll be talking through various elements of the scheme this evening. There's probably a lot of information on these slides, but as Sarah suggests, this is all being recorded and you can have a look at this at your leisure and pause and rewind and whatnot off the website probably tomorrow. So just to... One moment, sorry. Here we go. So just as a... I think, Jeremy, did you want to talk about Oxford briefly? Or
Well,
yeah, okay. So I'll just pass you over to Jeremy from Oxford to talk about development itself.
yes, thank you. So this is a project that we acquired in one of our portfolios about 2 or 3 years ago. It's important to put it in context. So the business that I founded now runs about £800 million worth of assets, both here in the UK and in predominantly Germany outside the UK. We have a team of 16 people. Claire, my colleague, is here, who's been helping with this development process. And essentially, we are looking to redevelop this site, remove Freshways when they're ready to leave in a couple of years' time, and redevelop the site into a modern, fit-for-purpose industrial and logistics centre. And this is part of our business strategy, and we have several projects of a similar nature ongoing around the UK.
So Sarah, now, did you want to talk through the consultation engagements for a moment?
Yeah, of course, no problem. So we've been working with Oxenwood for the past few months on their consultation and engagement before submitting a planning application later this summer. We are community engagement specialists who are employed to ensure that we follow best practice and making sure that we give all communities that surround any site the opportunity to help shape those proposals. So on this slide, you'll see a rough idea of the timeframe that we've been looking at in early engagement with key stakeholders, with letters and meetings, alongside moving into a more public consultation and offering people surrounding the development site the opportunity to help shape these proposals. A long list of key stakeholders, all of which who have now been contacted as part of that process. And then on the right-hand side, a very quick overview of all the ways that we've tried to make sure that we've given people the opportunity to engage with these. The exhibition dates are slightly out. They were held earlier last week. So for those of you who managed to attend on the Wednesday and the Saturday events, they were really well attended, and we were really grateful for people who have attended those. And then obviously we're holding this webinar this evening so that people who weren't able to make that date have the opportunity to engage with the proposals. And then of course this web recording will be available on the website. Yes, back over to you, Alistair.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So it's a small slide here on planning.
Good evening, everyone. So just very briefly on planning, the existing site is generally of very poor quality, poor sustainability credentials, poor environmental quality across the board. There's a great opportunity here for us to improve that quality of sites, improve the environment, improve greening, improve the number and the quality of those jobs on site as well. The site itself is designated as a locally significant industrial site within the council's local plan. So there's generally a presumption about making these sorts of employment sites more efficient and more effective in delivering the jobs that Ealing require. I'll pass you back on to Alistair. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. So that's those bits out of the way, and now we can get stuck in on the design and what these proposals actually are, how we've come to the proposals, and obviously what things will look like moving forward. So the site itself is sat comfortably in the middle of an existing industrial and commercial park. It's accessed predominantly only from the north, from down Eastman Road, and it's nestled between Acton Park to the north and the Southfield Recreational Ground to the south. The site itself and the existing industrial area benefits from great transport links. It's demonstrated by the plan that's on screen now, and that's obviously what brings employment to the area. So from an architectural or from a design point of view, obviously we look at the site, we look at what's going on there now, and we look at the surroundings, and we look at sensitive receptors, and all of those things come together to create some proposals that are suitable for the setting. So with regard to the site appraisal, as I say, there's an existing industrial area and an existing building with Freshways occupying at the moment. And so to the north of the site as well, we have some taller buildings as well. And obviously one of the key things that we do pay significant, sincere attention to is the residential properties both to the west and Mansell Road and beyond, and Hatfield Road to the south, and obviously the adjacent roads in that area. So there's constraints that we're aware of in terms of sensitive receptors, so that would be residential properties and people that are receptive to noise, but there's also some constraints on the site that we can't actually see, and that's namely because they're underground, and the key one of those is a sewer that runs east to west along this southern boundary. So throughout this process, we've been in liaison with the local authority, and we've been working through the pre-app process, and we've performed 2 pre-apps to date. The initial pre-app showed a scheme pushed to the southern boundary, and obviously through conversations with the local authority and through various other meetings that we've had with various stakeholders, it was clear that we needed to push the building further to the north and pay more acknowledgement to a lot of the constraints that I talked about a moment ago. And point 3 on screen at the moment shows where we are at the moment with the scheme design, with the building pushed to the northern boundary, hard into that industrial area. We've got servicing for vehicles to the west, as close to the access as possible to reduce traffic movements on the site as much as we can. And the office and the quieter parts of the operation is to the south, with some car-only parking adjacent to Hatfield Road. So one of the things that we obviously look at when we're formulating these proposals is we look at noise, where it's being made, and who would be hearing that noise. We're looking at the massing and the scale of the building. We're thinking about key views. So the recreational ground is one that springs to mind, and how we can manage those and mitigate any impacts. We're looking at existing green buffers and how we can bolster those and add greening to the area, and lighting as well as another one, and looking at light spill and obviously green space and amenities. So we're looking at this to be a great place for people to work, and hopefully a significant improvement to the building that's currently on site. I spoke probably at length about constraints in terms of the site itself, and also the constraints that are underground, such as the sewer. But another constraint that we also do have to consider is what we call institutional standards, and that is basically the rules that an occupier of this building requires. So that talks, we talk about the height of the building, and that's where the 15-metre clear internal height comes from, because that is the height for racking and the volume of the building. It's not only the footprint. We're looking at the active elevation and how HGVs and other vehicles can use the building, and the ratio of the size of the building and yard depths. So there's a whole host of different ingredients, if you like, that come together to generate our proposals. So on screen now is the proposal as it stands. The headlines are that the building is pushed, and we are working as hard as we can to push it even further to the north, as far away from Hatfield Road as possible. The offices are to the east, so to the right-hand side of the drawing as we look at it, and the car parking associated is wrapped around in that area. And all of the site traffic comes in through Eastman Road, and any HGVs or any goods vehicles are kept as to the west, if you like, and to all of the boundaries. As you can probably see from the image on screen now, we're looking to bolster that landscaping and really taking an opportunity to add greening and add further landscaping to the area. Just very quickly, just to confirm that the current proposals are 20.4 metres from the southern boundary. So the earlier pre-app documents, and certainly some of the local residents who I spoke to at public consultation were talking about a previous iteration where we were perhaps 9 or 10 metres away. That's not the case. We're at 20.4 at the moment, and as I say, we are working to push that as far as we possibly can. Car traffic I've spoke about, and you can see on here as well just how people that are working on the site will arrive by car, skirt around the service yard and come into the car parking, and that's the same route for pedestrians and cycles. And again, so what we've got here is just the overall site layout. So just to reiterate, as much landscaping as possible and a real kind of understanding of the recreational area, the residential to the west and to the south, and pushing the building as far as we can into that existing industrial area. So the building itself is a warehouse. We've got, it's single story with a mezzanine over the dock levelers. So that's where the vehicles come and bring products into the building. And the office itself, again, to the east of the site, is a ground floor core, and then the office sits at first and second floor, and that's looking out to the east, as you can see on these plans. Elevationally, what we've done here is look to break down the mass of the building. So we've employed some architectural characteristics that work to reduce that perceived mass. So we've got darker colours to the base of the building, that's broke up both on the horizontal plane and in the vertical plane. And then as we climb higher up on the main mass of the building, we step down through greys and kind of fade the building away toward the sky and what is the general predominant sky colour of cloud and so on and so forth. The office element has its own identity with some green cladding, curtain walling, and some more kind of flat panels and a more kind of high-tech architecture in that area. But as I say, we're aware that what we're trying to do here is obviously be responsive to those constraints and reduce the perceived mass of the building through the architecture, and that's where this graduated approach comes from. We do have some imagery here that shows what the building would look like. I mean, obviously this is from a highly elevated view down onto the site, and we've got 4 of those. And then just finally on my piece, I think we've got just a visual here that shows how the architecture and how all of that design process comes together. And hopefully everybody would agree that this building presents extremely well, certainly is far more pleasing to the eye than the existing buildings on the site. We're really excited to bring this scheme forward. So I'll just pass you over quickly just onto the landscaping part. And we've got the landscape architect here, and he can talk to you with far more authority than I can about the proposals on the site.
Thanks, Alistair. So good evening, everybody. So just to run you through the landscape proposals very, very quickly. I'm sure some of the people on the call will be aware of a previous iteration of the scheme where we were keeping existing vegetation on site. So I'd just like to pick up on that initially. That's the first thing with these new and improved proposals that Alistair's talked through now. The existing tree belt along the southern and eastern boundary will be retained in full, and we'll be augmenting that with some significant additional landscaping right through on the southern boundary. Breaking the scheme down into its component design parts from a landscape perspective. Obviously, we've got a lot of significant tree planting coming in to augment that scheme, but not only do that, but add quality to the rest of the scheme and break up hard spaces. We've also got hedging along the majority of the boundaries to take up some of that screening load at lower levels. So overall, we're looking to maximise the amount of green space on site and bring through an improved green infrastructure rating and perspective. Allied to that, obviously, we're bringing through biodiversity net gain to what is a particularly poor site at the moment in terms of its performance. Just to touch on visual impact and townscape assessment. We're in the process of undertaking and finalising that report at the moment, which will go in with the finalised plan application. Thanks very much.
Hi there, thank you very much. So with regard to the transport and highways, there are a couple of key aspects that we've been looking at right from the start. One of those is the parking, and the second is the transport impact assessment. With regards to the parking, there will be 70 parking spaces on site for the proposals. That's down from the 100 parking spaces that are currently there for the existing Freshways dairy. Of that total, we'll be providing a provision for electric charging, both from day one, but also a future passive provision for additional charging points to be installed as demand increases undoubtedly over time. There'll be 10% disabled car parking on the site in accordance with London Plan standards, and we're providing 50 cycle parking spaces. That also accords with the London Plan as well, and also the requirements of the Council. From a transport impact assessment, because we're acutely aware of the sensitivity of the Vale and also the impact of Eastman Road, we've undertaken 24-hour 7-day surveys of the existing dairy site, so we are very aware of the high volume of traffic, especially with regards to HGVs and vans that the dairy currently generates. And as part of that process that will form the transport report and impact assessment, we'll be undertaking a modelling exercise of the Eastman junction with the Vale to identify how that junction currently handles traffic and what the queuing levels are versus the development proposals for when the development would be operational in the future. Because parking, of course, can be a very sensitive topic, what we'll be setting out within the transport report is a parking justification for the provision we're seeking. The site does benefit from a good public transport corridor provision on the Vale and surrounding overground services, but because we're seeking planning permission for a facility and employment source that could operate 24 hours a day, we do need to strike a balance of providing a certain quantum of parking for shift change for times of the night when, with the exception of perhaps a night bus, there is very little public transport accessibility, and also when staff are less likely to walk and cycle also during those winter and more inclement months. So, as I say, the report will include a detailed justification, but some of those headline elements of that justification for what we're seeking, which is obviously a significant amount of parking less than the existing, are that kind of shift pattern, that 24-hour nature, ensuring that we provide opportunity for a range of forms of transport to the site. Finally, as part of that is the production of a framework travel plan. Now this sets out initially from the planning perspective the strategy for the site in terms of promoting walking and cycling and public transport, but also when a future tenant moves into the site, they pick up the baton of this framework travel plan and turn it into a bespoke document for themselves. That will have targeted measures associated with their business. It can include things like cycle to work schemes for their staff and other such measures. It will include information such as public transport information, surface frequencies. It can include notice boards with plans showing local cycle routes, walking routes, and how to get to the site via forms of transport that are not the car, because that's the core principle of the framework travel plan. As I say, that will be something that will be built upon from the framework document that's prepared for the planning application. Perfect. So, Sarah, I think that concludes the presentation for this evening.
Thanks, Alistair, and thank you, team. So we have a short Q&A session now. Really happy to take questions. We do also have a couple of them already in the question and answer box. But if you are, excuse me, keen to ask questions, please do put them to us, and we'll be able to put them to the project team. So if I could just take one very small question. I think we've already answered it, but it'd be great if you could go into a bit more detail. Will any trees be removed as part of the plans to redevelop the site?
Yes, I think I can answer that one. The simple answer is no. So there'll be no tree removal at all.
Thank you, that's wonderful, Alistair. And again, I think we've already gone into some detail about this, but could we confirm if there are any spaces for EV parking or other additional passive EV parking on site?
Yes, there will be. There'll be 20%, which is equates to 14 spaces, electric charging, and another 20% also passive.
Thank you so much. A very small question here on solar panels. Are we considering them as part of these proposals?
Yes, so I can take this one. So again, the answer is yes. So we will be installing solar panels in order for the office area to generate its own panels. So it will be EPC A+ and carbon neutral in operation for the office. And then the balance, the remainder of the roof, will be 100% capable of taking additional PV. So the full structure is capable, and we're doing a real good quantum to start with at Shell.
Thank you so much. A very short question here on environmental improvement generally. I wonder if we could go into a bit more detail about that. So can we detail exactly what sort of improvements would be provided as part of the proposals?
Yeah, I think I can take that one. I mean, environmental improvements regarding landscape. So all of the planting will be native or native origin. We're looking to bring forward as much variety within the scheme as possible. So there will be tree planting, there'll be native shrub planting, there'll be flower-rich perennial planting, there'll be species-rich hedgerows along the boundaries, and we are looking also to bring amenity areas into the scheme for workers, potential workers going forward.
In addition to that, it's probably worth noting the ecological and biodiversity improvements that we're seeking through that landscaping that Kevin mentioned there. So there's going to be wide-ranging biodiversity net gain. That's certainly what the scheme is driving to do, along with sustainable urban drainage. So not just draining away into the usual kind of sewer outfall, but actually using the site and using the water that comes from the rainwater harvesting, permeable paving, maybe ponding. These are some of the examples of sustainable drainage that the scheme works to incorporate also. So various different environmental measures.
Thanks, guys. That's wonderful. A question here on construction. Could anyone confirm how long the build would take, and maybe some detail about minimising any kind of impact for surrounding residents?
Yes, thank you. We estimate that the total build time, including demolition, will be in the order of 15 months. Probably about 3 to 4 months of demolition, and the rest will be building. In terms of the construction, all contractors these days have to comply with the sort of considerate builder scheme and all of the regulations that are involved in safe site and sort of enjoyment during outside hours. Sam, you might know what typical hours are for construction, but it's 8 hours a day, is that right?
Yeah. So as Jeremy said there, on top of that, there is BREEAM compliance we'll be working towards in terms of sort of locally sourced materials, some standards for just construction works. That'll be
typically the timeline for in during the day.
Yeah, probably about 8:30. I think 5 plus 5 can take a day.
Construction environmental management plan. Yeah, exactly. That's something. There'll be various conditions attached to any decision notice if indeed the council decides to approve the development. One of those conditions will be construction environmental management plan, where certain measures will be put into place by any contractor to ensure that dust pollution, noise pollution is kept to an absolute minimum throughout the construction activity. They're quite detailed documents, but that's something that we would use to manage that activity for the actual construction process.
And good neighbourly communication. That was any disruption maybe.
It's worth adding just to that as well. There's a construction routing plan that will be incorporated into that, and that so the routing of construction vehicles is also agreed with the council and the contractor prior to that work commencing.
Thanks, guys. That's wonderful. So, Jeremy, just a little bit quiet today, but just to confirm, 15 months is the total time.
15 months, 3 months of demolition, up to a year of construction.
Perfect, thank you. Could we just talk about the office? So will this be open 24/7? And does that mean full 7 days a week? And how would that be working?
Yeah, hi. So on the operations of the office area, typically the warehouse will operate 24/7. You would traditionally find that the office staff would be more likely to work traditional office hours, kind of your 9 to 5, 9 to 6. There will be a small area, I would imagine, that's used for the night shift staff in terms of some of them to take a break, but generally I would imagine office hours to be more typical to what we're used to.
Thanks, Claire. That's perfect. And then it looks like just one last question here. Could we possibly go into some detail about the apprenticeships or job opportunities for on the site in the event of a successful planning application?
Yep. So what we'd be seeking is actually an obligation or condition attached to the permission, if it was deemed to be granted, for an employment skills and training plan. That will identify certain percentages or numbers of apprentices. We'd love to hear from anyone who could, if there are local colleges, for example, that undertake training and apprenticeships in the construction industry, operational industry, manufacturing industry. We'd love to speak to them. But there'll be various opportunities with modern warehouse buildings such as this, a wide range of skills through IT, engineering, technicians, obviously pickers and warehousemen as well, but really wide range of skill bases there. So lots of opportunity for training and skills development, absolutely.
And then it looks like just one more question just added. Could we just confirm the height of the proposals?
Yes, so I can say that one. So the clear internal height of the building, so the open space inside the building is 15 metres, which is an institutional requirement that we're looking at for the volume of the building. That translates externally to a parapet height of 17.5 metres. And then the ridge, which falls behind the parapet, is 17.8. And again, we've kept those through design and through the pitch of the roof. We've kept those figures to an absolute minimum. So the parapet, so the perimeter of the building at its highest point is 17.5, and in the middle of the building, as it were, at the ridge line, at the very highest point of the pitch of the roof, that would be 17.8 metres.
Alistair, could I just ask you just to detail if there will be any sort of any daylight or sunlight assessment as part of this proposals?
Yes, correct. We will be undertaking those assessments.
Thank you, that's wonderful. Here we go. And sorry, just to ask a little bit question on top of that, could we just confirm the height in comparison to the current Freshways site?
Yeah, so the existing building is about 10.5 metres. So there's an increase in height proposed.
Compared to 17.
Yes.
Thank you, that's wonderful. I think that looks like it's everything for our current questions. If you do have anything that we haven't yet covered this evening, hopefully that means that we've covered everything that you're sort of interested in this evening. Then we of course, have our email address, which is still open, which is powerparkacton@londoncommunications.co.uk. If you've had a flyer through your front door, that should be on there too. I just have one final question, if it's okay for the team. Could we just talk about the type of businesses that will be interested in these proposals if they are successful?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of planning use, we're going for an an open consent for industrial. The unit's going to be developed speculatively, as I'm sure you can appreciate. At this point, we don't have a tenant lined up. So there is a broad basket of tenants that may come to us. So that's from a kind of a logistics use. Also, Acton's really well known for food and for film work. So what we're hoping to build is a flexible building that will allow us to attract a wider number of tenants, so that we can let this building and, you know, make it fully operational. I'd love to tell you exactly who the tenant's going to be, but actually it's going to fit within that consent. And I've got logistics, food, film works, manufacturing. That would be my gauge at this point.
Thanks, Claire.
What we're looking for here is try and attract a sort of major, well-known household name logistics and move away very materially from the existing owner, the existing occupier, Freshways, and their very intensive usage of the site, thereby sort of restricting noise at the start, but that's partly because of the design that you've reorientated the building so that the noise works so more the industrial zone. Just in terms of vehicle movements, there is an expectation that it will be far fewer by multiple at the moment.
And I think as well, it's the quality of the building. So what we're finding generally is that, you know, a higher quality building will bring a higher quality tenant, someone that will look after the building and someone that will abide by their lease, and it will generally change the environment that's there now. And that's what we're kind of targeting.
Thanks both, that's awesome. A couple more extra questions that have just come in. So could someone detail the green improvements that will be laid out as part of these proposals, and any kind of support for sustainability within these proposals? I think we've had some detail about it, but just to reiterate, that would be amazing.
Yeah, to reiterate, I mean, there are lots of green benefits coming through. So I think James touched on sustainable urban drainage. So we're currently looking at incorporating that within the scheme. There's the potential for some rainwater harvesting. And certainly from a landscape perspective, there's going to be a net increase in biodiversity on what is a particularly poor site of the green hard surface throughout. Obviously, the technical detail of what we're going to go into in terms of planting proposals is yet to come, but it will be based on bringing forward, you know, the maximum amount of kind of wildlife beneficial planting throughout the scheme.
Thanks so much, that's wonderful. And then there's just a question on demand for industrial use. Do we have anything that shows that there is a demand for industrial units like this at the moment?
Actually, Sarah, on the board, which I think are on the website, there's a section about the considerable industrial demand that we see in London, across the country, indeed wider than that actually. So yes, the e-commerce trend, if you like, is continuing. It's slowed somewhat because of the slowdown in the economic environment at the moment, but fundamentally that demand for industrial space at a time when I might say that actually a lot of land has been taken up in urban areas, particularly London, switch between industrial and residential, is now putting a strain on the ability to deliver buildings for employment and things like that. So yes, there is considerable demand for industrial space in London. And I would expect there to be competition for a building like this because it will be extremely rare.
Good to hear. Okay, so it looks like it's our final question this evening. Hopefully that means that we've answered everything that is on your mind at the moment. If you do have any questions that we have not yet answered, or anything comes to mind after this evening, of course our email address remains open, powerpark@acton@londoncommunications.co.uk. Thank you so much for coming and attending this evening. As Jeremy's mentioned, the consultation boards, which we've been showing at the Wednesday and the Saturday events, are also on the website, as will this recording. So if you do have anything that you would like us to answer, please feel free to email us, and thank you. Have a good evening.